set of audience. Kalpesh bhai, should we start?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And we may start now, Kavita. I think the time has gone, and
Yes, sure.
around more than 15 participants are already there. So we should start
Sure.
now.
शुभ प्रभात। आप सभी लोगों का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया कि आप लोग एक सैटरडे मॉर्निंग को लास्ट 3 हफ्तों से हमारे साथ समय बिता रहे हैं। एंड आई होप हम लोग जो भी ये क्लासरूम सीरीज के थ्रू कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं, आप लोगों के साथ इंटरेक्ट कर रहे हैं। वी होप दैट दिस नॉलेज ट्रांसफर इज हैपनिंग, और ये आप आगे जाके अपने रिस्पेक्टिव ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में डेफिनेटली इम्प्लीमेंट करेंगे। पोस्ट द इवेंट हम लोग आपको कंटिन्यू करते रहेंगे। You all can reach out to us, and you can approach us for any kind of building help with respect to implementing these strategies and policies. दूसरा चीज, आज हम अपने ये सेशन में एक ये कंक्लूडिंग मॉड्यूल है, सो मैं एक रिकैप दूंगी। कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें जो पहले के दो कॉन्सेप्ट ट्रेनर्स जो थे हमारे, एक इंडस्ट्री एक्सपर्ट सुमित गुप्ता और कॉन्सेप्ट ट्रेनर निधि अग्रवाल, दोनों ने बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग इंसाइट्स दी थी। कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें मैंने उन्हीं की प्रेजेंटेशन में से पिकअप करके आप लोगों के सामने प्रेजेंट करूंगी। एक सेपरेट अलग तरह की केस स्टडी भी प्रेजेंट करूंगी जो आपको वापस हेजिंग की अहमियत की तरफ ले जाएगा और आपको बताएगा कि किस तरह से ये हेजिंग जरूरी है। एंड हमने लाइव एग्जांपल लिया है ऑयल सीड्स का ही, सोयाबीन का ही हमने लाइव एग्जांपल लिया है इसमें। एंड देन टुडे विद अस हैव टू outstanding industry experts who've been with the industry for more than 17 years, been with the commodity markets for more than 17 years. They have been a part of this ecosystem. एक मिस्टर विद्या भूषण है जो Bange se hai, and he heads the edible oil segment. He's been associated with Bange for since 2015, and we've been interacting with Mr. Vidya Bhushan for quite some time now for various consultancy related work or market information or understanding how the corporates are engaged in this activity. And we'll hear from him today after I finish this presentation. And हमारे साथ on the other side, advisory firm से GGN Research से हमारे साथ नीरव देसाई जुड़े हैं। नीरव देसाई भी इस इंडस्ट्री में SPJN के एलुमनाई रह चुके हैं एंड इस इंडस्ट्री में को गाइड कर रहे हैं, सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। एंड रिसर्च, जहां तक मेरा अंडरस्टैंडिंग है इस सेगमेंट का, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है सभी मार्केट पार्टिसिपेंट्स को गाइड करने में। एंड आई थिंक they play a very very crucial role. They are people who actually are knowledge banks जिसे हम कहते हैं for our industry. So Nirav and Vidya, welcome on the panel, and thank you for taking out time today to be a part of this interaction and discussion. ये association जो है हम NCDX IPFT Trust के अंदर ये हम session conduct कर रहे हैं along with the support of Sea Solvent Extractors Association, जिन्होंने last 3 हफ्तों से ये तीसरा हफ्ता है ensure किया है that the set of participants जो हमारे साथ पहले सेशन में जुड़े थे वो अब तक हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं। बहुत सारे ऐसे कंटेस्टेंट्स हैं जो ये थर्ड सेशन में, कंक्लूडिंग सेशन में हमारे साथ अभी भी जुड़े हुए हैं। एंड this also brings about I would also like to give a pat on the back of my entire team to ensure that this session is conducted well. बहुत देर नहीं करते आगे बढ़ते हुए इस सेशन को हम कंक्लूड करेंगे। आफ्टर वी हैव अ डिस्कशन विद द पैनलिस्ट, वी विल बी कंक्लूडिंग दिस सेशन with a small assessment. एक तरह का it's a multi multiple choice assessment that we will be sending across. So my team will be sending across to all the registered IDs who are there associated with us today at the event, post which we will send across certification for this whole module that we have conducted. Thank you, and I'll go back to my presentation. Now, जितने भी commodity markets आपने देखा होगा post the pandemic have really got impacted and have become even more volatile because there is panic in the market, there were supply chain disruptions, and post the pandemic started easing, the demand for these commodities has suddenly risen. Over the years, with pollution and all the other global warming aspects, especially अगर हम oil seeds की बात करें तो वहाँ उस area में the demand for biofuel and the concept of biofuel has also got initiated at various oil seed producing hubs, and that has definitely had an impact on the domestic market also. So global policies have also had an impact on our commodity markets, and all together अगर आप देखें तो ये segment जो है ये segment जो है agricultural segment जो है is extremely volatile. We are experiencing huge what do you call price movements, and these price movements range between 20 to 30% of on an annualized basis, which can shake the market, shake the costs for any corporate, and they also put a huge amount of pressure on the margins, which are already wafer thin. So बहुत सारी interesting चीजें last few sessions में introduce हुई थी. I will like to go through that also. Kalpesh bhai, can you please put up the presentation?
I've already shared.
Okay, it's not visible, Kalpesh bhai. Is it visible to everybody else? Kapil, is it visible to you?
No, Kavita, I cannot see. It's blank.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Kavita, you start. Let me also welcome all of you. I'm Kapil. I represent NCDEX. And I think last two series has remained really good in terms of understanding the concept first from a professor. I am Professor Dr. Nidhi Agrawal, and then understanding various other aspects from the practical side from Sumit, who represent a working house. But now finally, I think we have someone who actually research that and give guidance to the people, and one we have who actually use that market efficiently, right? And I think that could be the best way to close any event when we have the actual users coming and speaking. How do they feel about this market? How they use this market efficiently, and how the people in the call, the industry participants, can be benefit from this derivative market. And I think volatility, price movement are characteristic of this market. We definitely have different reason at different point of time, but the point is, yes, it is going to be there always, whether it's COVID, whether it's production, whether it's monsoon now being discussed, US, China, Suez Canal, whatever. This is going to be there. Every time we will have different reason, but the important is that how we can manage it. So Kavita, I think we can move to maybe Nirav or Vidya, how you have planned, and at last you can finally do the recap. I mean, my suggestion, you can take it forward.
Sure, Kapil. We'll take it up like that. So Vidya and Nirav, welcome onto this platform. I think the participants will also enjoy hearing from people who are doing this day in and day out, whether it is as part of their business operations or whether it is with respect to guiding people in the physical market or the physical ecosystem. So Vidya, let me, kind of begin with both of you kind of making a comment on this discussion and classroom series that we've been having. As in, what are your thoughts to your usual practice in terms of, say, Vidya, if we start with you, uh, price risk management is a policy with the organizations, large organizations that you have worked with. Uh, how do you see this as, kind of a growing or an emerging, I wouldn't say a trend, but an emerging concept, which is now being accepted not only by the large organizations, but also, say, have you experienced a similar trend within your supply chain?
First of all, good morning, Kavita. Good morning, all the members of NCDX and all the participants. Thank you for having me here. And this is one of my favorite topics which you are covering. Uh, Commodity market is so volatile that you cannot survive without a risk management or without doing a price risk management, because and I think the various earlier speakers have already spoke about it, that you need to have initially when we work out and what we should look at it is you need to have a nice framework of a risk management policy, right? So you in any company, our first thing is a system, right? So you need to frame a risk management policy which works as a guiding path. So you need to give a guide to the guy who is maybe your trader, your purchaser, your seller. So you give a guiding path for that framework according to which they can work, because and
हेलो
we often see in our industry or in any industry,
सर,
we
मेरा
work with
प्रॉब्लम ये हो रहा है कि मैंने ऑलरेडी प्रेजेंटेशन चालू किया, तो मैं प्रेजेंटेशन शेयर कर रहा हूँ वहाँ पर। आप शामिल
Kalpesh
से
bhai,
बात कर सकते
can
हो।
you stop? Kalpesh bhai, can you stop? Can you put yourself on mute and can you stop
मैंने
sharing
उनको
your
बोल
screen?
के भी रखा है कि आप अगर ये हो ना, आपने रजिस्टर्ड किया है तो आपको एक्सेप्ट कर लेंगे।
Kalpesh bhai,
मेरा
can
ऑलरेडी
you please?
प्रेजेंटेशन चालू है सर, प्रेजेंटेशन चालू है सर।
Kalpesh bhai, can you please be on mute? Yeah. Sorry, Vidya.
Extremely sorry, extremely sorry.
no problem. Yeah. So like I was saying that in the markets, you tend to get emotional with your position, and a lot of time we have seen that people work based on sentiment, and the favorite sentence we hear in this market is "kya lag raha hai." So that lagna or that sentiment always makes us emotional with the position, and that's where the problem starts. So if you're giving a framework within which the traders have to operate, it is always good to have. Now, within framework, what all you should have is, as a company, better that what kind of risk you are running into, whether it is a commodity price risk, currency, counterparty, credit. I mean, you name all the risk. You know what are the risks involved in this in your trade. So you have to identify that risk, and as per that, and as per your risk appetite, you work out that what kind of open exposure you want to have it. You know, and depending on your risk appetite, if you have high risk appetite, you will have more open exposure, and if you have low risk appetite, you will have less open exposure. So first thing is the risk management. You have to frame a policy so that surprises. Nobody likes surprises. As a company, as a business, also, and as a professional, as a trader, also, surprises are not good for anyone. So you want to have a sound sleep, you want to have a peace of mind, frame a risk management policy and work according to that. Now, second important thing which I would say is you really need to define your role as hedger. What kind of hedger are you? Are you a trader who is hedging to defend his position, or are you a manufacturer who is hedging to defend, I would say, the supply chain risk, or I would say to defend his business, right? So traders often, they hedge to control, to defend their profit or to limit their loss. Whereas in the case of manufacturer, either you and Sumit, I've seen Sumit spoke about how how the value chain participant in a biscuit manufacturer, because they cannot put the MRP up and down. So you need to protect your inventory cost. So that is something you have to really define your role, that what kind of hedger you are. And then, third thing, and which is the most important thing, is the platform where you should hedge. And this is a very important thing, because whether you work with correlation, you work with hedge ratio, various technical things which both the speakers have spoke about. But it is an important thing, right? That where to hedge. And it also depends on the commodity which you are dealing into. Are you dealing into a commodity which is where where as a country you are a price taker or price maker? I mean, just giving an example of non-GM soybean meal, right? Non-GM soybean meal is not globally benchmark, and you do not have any global benchmark. So if you are exporting non-GM soybean meal from India, your Indian prices or Indian factors will work more than the global factors. So it is always advisable that you hedge it in the exchange near to you, like NCDX, which works well with the local sentiments. And if you are looking at the commodity where India as country is a price taker, and I will give you an example of soybean oil, where India plays an important role, but it has many other global factors which is involved. And when you are working in that direction, that okay, you have a CNF contract, which is a dollar denominated contract, and you
I
have
was
a
on mute.
45
पता नहीं
days.
ऐसे ही हो गया, पता नहीं चला मुझे. I was on mute. तो अभी
Yeah. Okay, Kalpeshwar, you are not on mute. Okay, so if you are working on this, CNF price, whether it is a dollar denominated contract, then it is always the time you have 45 days, 35 days. Then it is always better to hedge closer to which is a global benchmark where the CNF price is derived. But once it arrives in India, then you have all these local factors start influencing that your inventory price. Then you have to again switch back to the platform which is closer to you, which is NCDEX in case of soy oil, right? So it is important. Third important thing while deciding the platform is we often see that okay, the price is very cheap or the price is very expensive on the exchange. Then again, you have to look at it. What do you want to do? You want to take delivery from exchange, or you want to just manage your risk? If you are managing your risk, then it is immaterial that what is the price it is trading, because it can have various other factors. But what is important for you is the fluctuation and hedge ratio, an optimal hedge ratio which you have derived at, how it is working on that sense. If the CNA prices is falling or going up by $10, and the same kind of fluctuation we are seeing in the exchange, it is a right platform. You have to do it. But then important is you hedge. Now and this is the last one, which normally people don't able to separate it, but you need to keep your risk management position and speculative. Some people call it speculative position, but I would like to say more opportunistic trading. So you should separate your risk management or the hedging position with your opportunistic trading position, and you cannot mix it. We have examples in every industry and every geography where you mixed it, or the opportunistic trading or the speculative trading has exceeded the hedge or overall your physical. It is a, in general, it is a recipe for disaster, and we have seen that. And I always say, in cake, everyone loves the cherry at the top, or the chocolate chips which have on the top. Everyone loves that. But you have to remember that that is not the base. Your base is something else. I mean, the base cannot be cherry. If the base will be cherry, your cake will tumble. The cake will not be flat. So that is something which people should always keep in mind. Over to you, Kavita.
Thanks. With just what uh,
Kavita, your voice is breaking.
Vidya, am I audible now?
Yes, better.
Okay, sure. So just a follow-up question. Now, you said that the cherry cannot be the base, right? Where just looking at say the margins, or how do you define the cherry? That is one. Second, what a very important component which Kapil also mentioned last time is that we will look at say the input cost risk, or the core hedging risk, or the flat price risk as you call it, and we also have an additional risk which is basis risk. Now, as an organization, or through your experience with various organizations, what is the policy that as a trader, as a person who's leading a particular desk, uh, or globally is followed in terms of managing this basis risk?
Okay, first thing is how do you define cherry? So cherry is always the things which you excites you in the market, the sentiment of kya lag raha hai that excites you. You need to limit that thing, or you need to. It is basically your emotional trade or your opportunistic trade. You need to. I mean that is good for short term, but when you are looking at long term, and when you are looking at long term more systematic, right? Then you have to, you cannot base your thing based on that opportunistic trading. I mean, again, unless you are a jobber, right? That is your full-time job, and that is your, it also depends on what is your business model. If your business model is that you have to make that money out of this opportunistic trading and all, then it is fine. But if your business model is not that, and that's why I said you need to define your role as a hedger, what kind of hedger you are, and then accordingly define your cherry. Uh, Second is the basis reg, which is basically a locational advantage or disadvantage which people have. And the basis risk, and Kapil also mentioned in the previous calls that it is an market, and it is an informal, which is more of a like over the counter thing, that people decide based on the benchmark, that what is the plus or what is the minus of that, and that is not systematic, or that is not always being there, right? But you need to also understand that majorly you always trade on flat price, right? What is the flat price is there. You have a basis, you have a futures, and you have other component. And but your ultimate trade is based on the flat price. So you always remember on the flat price, that how is the flat price working for you, and accordingly hedge. I mean, and this is a nice example, and Nirav will also, we have experienced this in the recent days in oils, that, the people have run into basis risk because the future was too volatile. And but you need to always look at the flat price. If you keep it two different things, if you are day in day out into that, then it is fine. But if you are not day in day out, that is not your, again, the basis is not, then look at the flat price, and don't go for any basis or this.
Sure, thanks, Vidya. Nirav, I'd like to come to you now. You have been, providing advisory services to all sorts of set of traders, large, small traders, and also are into the other side, which Vidya spoke about, the cherry, right? In terms of people who are doing trades and however, our set of audience is completely different. We are talking about pure hedgers here. Uh, how has your experience been? Have you seen a change in how the market is now approaching, say, is approaching this whole concept of price risk management? Do you see that, now the market is to a certain extent ready? And of course, has the pandemic kind of reinforced the fact that how important price risk management is for all sorts of market participants across the board. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So, Kavita, thank you, and good morning to everybody on this Saturday. Everybody's devoting their time. That's a thumbs up to all of you. So, as far as hedging goes, I think this is a quintessential situation for now commodity markets and companies who want to survive in the long term. I'm using the word survive, not just about talking about grow or any other thing. So this is a very basic need now for any commodity company. Uh, and I would just say that if somebody asks me, what is the biggest difference between the Indian owned companies versus the multinationals? I think their thought process, their concept about price risk management or hedging their risk is very clear versus we as Indian owners, a lot of companies I work closely with are definitely much lower in understanding on this discipline, on the concept, on the policy. And to the extent, some people are very, very casual also on this. And we don't understand what's the kind of risk we are putting to our company, to our own existence in this market, because these markets are becoming more and more volatile, more and more risky. And I would say the volatility that used to come in 3 months or 6 months is now coming in 3 days or 4 days. And the market is boomeranging, like, it goes up for 3 days, then it goes down for 3 days. So in this kind of a situation, it's a total chaos. And if you don't have a clear hedge policy, or if you don't have any proper risk management, I think you are going to fall, you are going to get hurt. And I don't know, the participants are more from the industry, or the participants are more from broking house or consultants. But
So, Nirav, the
it's
participants are more from the industry. They are from C.
okay, so cool. So then this is more important for them to understand that you are putting your company at a big risk. So going on to what is hedging. Hedging is a discipline, or risk management is a discipline. And for keeping this discipline from the top, the senior most management has to understand that they have to create a policy. That policy has to be well understood with the top management and the people down the line who are either purchasing or selling, or people between them like a general manager or something. So their whole policy is very clear how they will follow this price risk management discipline. If we don't do this, there are a lot of things that can happen. Uh, in this, I think there are certain things because I've been working with a lot of Indian owners, and I have seen some of them really excelling in this, or really excelling in understanding how to maintain this price risk management. And there are certain people who have not understood, and I have even seen cases which the companies have overnight shut down because of this lack of price risk management. I would not like to name those companies. So in this policy and this discipline has to happen. And I think the biggest root cause is the owners feel they are invincible. The owners feel that there is nobody bigger than them. but market is too bigger than anybody. Market is bigger than a Bungie, a market is bigger than the ADMs, the Cargills, anybody. So then an Indian owner should not think that they are something who are very big. So I think the biggest problem I have seen in companies is the discipline that is lacked by the owners. I have met a lot of owners, I've told them the managing director should have their trading limit. The managing director's son should have a trading limit, or partners should have a trading limit, because nobody questions them. And it is always better to keep a professional running a risk policy or a hedge book rather than the owner doing that, because the professional knows he's answerable to his seniors, and he would not take risk beyond a point. Maybe there is a sales that he has done of 10,000 tons or 5,000 tons or of 1,000 tons. The professional will be up and down for 2 hours, 3 hours till the time he is not hedged the risk. Or he would go to the owners and ask, boss, I have sold this 1,000 tons. I feel the market can come down, but I want to lock my profit or I want to control my cost. I have hedged 500 tons. Should I go ahead and do the 500 tons? So now what is happen is, if the owner is casual about the policy, he'll say, no, let's see, we'll see in next 2-3 days. If the owner is very clear about the policy, he'll say, this is your call. I can give you my comment, but my comment could be valid for 2 hours or 3 hours. You want to do this intraday, do this intraday. It's 2 p.m. Observe the market till 4 p.m., but don't go ahead of 4 p.m. and close the policy. So I think this is how one should practically develop all these things. And if you are not doing this, then the professional should immediately pass on that risk to the owners or the next department, that this is your trading call. I have logged this and I have given this thing to the next department. It is not necessary that every price risk management has to come on an exchange. It is not necessary that it has to come on an NCDX or a CME or a BMD. There could be natural hedges also. So typically a lot of companies are doing this fantastically, where we are seeing as brokers that they do spaces. They do spaces of 5,000 tons, but they request the shipper to only price 500 tons. They would wait for 350 or 400 tons of physical cargo to be sold, immediately go and do 500 tons of pricing. In Palm, I have seen companies who have requested shippers to price 250 and 300 tons, which is generally not the case of the practice. But certain shippers have allowed them for a product which is as typical as a CPKO. So what happens is, it is the policy that you create. The best is that you naturally hedge purchase versus sales. Whatever is left, you go on the exchange. Then go on selecting which exchange is more logical for me. What is the situation? If my exposure is a rupee sales exposure, then I would suggest that you either book the NCDX or the MCX, which is the rupee exchange. Or if you are going and buying the C&F, then immediately go and book your rupee dollar also. So you have to understand what are the open variables in a contract when you are closing something. If you are closing a sales or if you are closing a purchase. If you are hedging a C&F cargo on the NCDX, then you have to keep in mind that the rupee dollar is also open. Today something is positive because the rupee dollar was at 72 and there was good import margin, but you missed booking the rupee dollar. Rupee dollar would have a premium, but even after paying the premium, if you are having good margins, why not book it? What happens when you hedge, when you close this? No, your mind has a limited capacity to hold tension of a contract. If you keep on burdening your head with more and more contracts, you will have a maximum capacity to hold that. So best is anything that comes today, close the variables, hedge everything, put it aside. Next day morning, go into the market, do some other trade, lock some other profit, again close the variables, put it aside. So that is how a company should work. And I would say, working with professionals or good professionals like Vidya and the others, I have seen them when they handle such a huge volume, or their counterparts in Geneva or their counterparts in Rotterdam, they also do the same. They sell to India, they immediately go and price the Chicago, they immediately go and book the bases. So their trader in Chicago books the CME, their trader in Argentina goes and books the base. So they continuously do this. And that is how such a large organization with such a large volume is able to work profitably. So this is what I wanted to explain as a practical aspect of hedging, how people are doing. What I have understood working day in, day out with a lot of corporates, understanding how these multinationals work, it's a discipline. It's a policy that we have to make, and we have to understand who is going to take care, who's the flag bearer of this policy. And the owners have to have the maturity to understand that they cannot overnight overrule the flag bearer. They cannot overrule the policy overnight. Yes, if they want to trade, they ask a trader inside their company to maintain a different no trader book for the owners. Or the best is you open a different account for the owner. Maybe that could be a personal account, or maybe that could be a different small trading company account. And then evaluate your trading skills if you want to do that. But don't put the whole mainframe company at risk on this. Also, as I mentioned, I have seen a lot of companies not understanding, which Vidya also said, that the correlation of the product. If today I am selling a non-GMO soybean product or a soya meal, I cannot go and hedge Chicago. If I am selling something based out of India, I have to go and hedge Indian meal or the Indian beans, but I cannot go and book the Chicago. Similarly, if I am trading FOB CPO, I will have to use BMD or the FOB paper rather than booking the MCX. But I have seen a lot of multinationals, even after having uh, slight disparity on the Indian oil market, hedging their refineries in Kandla or Krishnapatnam or Haldia's product on the Indian exchanges, because their refined would sell on the Indian sentiment or the Indian situation. That could be the duty, that could be the Indian sentiment, that could be the Indian weather, or sometimes the Indian mustard oil, if it is getting cheaper, or the groundnut oil is getting cheaper. So that is important for us to understand which is the most correlated exchange for us to hedge, or which is the most correlated market for us to hedge. It could be a paper market, it could be a C&F market, it could be a exchange in India, it could be an exchange outside, or it could be your refined market, or it could be your finished goods market. So you have to decide on that. Also, we need to understand that in this, what are the variables that are open? As I told about the dollar rupee, if you are booking the BMD, you have to understand that in the BMD, you have to even book the ringgit versus the dollar. So all these things, sometimes you go haywire on this. Then also, as Vidya mentioned, I'm just trying to go on explaining the practical aspect of it. What is your role of hedging? Is it a hedge as a manufacturing company? Is it a hedge as a refiner? Or is it a hedge as an importing trader? I would show a different angle to it. So sometimes we have a positive hedge. What is a positive hedge? Today I'm getting some cargo which is C&F bean oil. I go on and hedge the NCDX oil. I see the differential between the DGUM landed cost versus the NCDX Indore should be at least a 50 rupees premium. I'm getting 55, 60 rupees premium. So I am getting a positive 5 to 10 rupees margin visibly on the board. I go and do that. So generally a person should initiate a new trade with a positive hedge. But sometimes what happens is you do a negative hedge, or I would say slight negative hedge, because that's to control a position. That's to control your cost, as he mentioned. Maybe I see that today the beans market, like typically what happened last year when everybody had the thought process that 38, 3900 beans is going to go down and the season is very good, and my physical trader went and exported soya meal, thinking the market would go down. Maybe as a trading call, the company thought that we will buy the physical beans when it comes down lower in October and November. But what could be a hedge policy is, okay, we've done this, but if the beans rally above 3,900, that's our stop loss hedge level. Because we have some inherent margin in our physical trade or in our export trade, which we have calculated. If we sold the cargo at 3,850, but 3,900 is our stop loss level, because if we don't hedge our position up if above 3,900, then at 4,000 or 4,100, the whole physical trade margin went on toss, or maybe it started giving us a loss. So certain times we have to even understand in situations of difficult times, you have to go a negative hedge also, but that is to control your cost. So I think certain times a lot of companies have hitch with that, but again, as I said, you have to have a policy. When you have a policy, it's a risk management policy. It is not a profit management policy. It is good if you can positively hedge. That is the best. And I would always say, if a new trade is initiated on the board or a hedge is done, a new hedge is done, I would suggest that it should be a positive hedge. But there are situations when you are running a physical book that sometimes you can't have always a positive hedge, but certain times you have to go and jump and hedge just to control your cost. Eventually, later on, you would feel it was better that 50 rupees higher also we covered the beans. At least we had a 2% margin and we lost that 1% margin, and we booked the 1% margin. We were able to supply to our regular buyer, and on the next contract we requested the buyer that no, because this had happened, and if he could give us more 2-3% margin. And that happens in the trade. If you are active, if you are live, if you are thriving, you will always have that opportunity to get margins. Sometimes the trade gives you that inherent margin, which because a lot of people are from trade, we've seen the crush margins on the local soybean. Like this OND period was positive. The crush margins in mustard this February, March, April were fantastic. The import margins in edible oils or general oils in the last April, May, June, July, August were fantastic. The ownership margins in September, October, November, December, January in import were fantastic. So we have to understand, if we are able to be in the market on the long run, we will have those margins which will wipe out small losses that we create. But the most important for us to have is a risk management policy. And that risk management policy, that hedge policy, is important for us to survive. Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you, Neerav. I think that was exhaustive and very, very detailed. I think some of the key points that I'd like to bring out from your conversation, which need a mention and a highlight, is discipline, discipline, and discipline. I think that is something which gets forgotten. For what you said is any kind of margins, excess margins, or the cherry on the top that at times we are looking at, and which should not be the case. And also sometimes those that forget the cherry on the top. Sometimes if it's a slice of the cake, a small slice of the cake, we risk the whole cake for it, right? Or we risk the whole business, which you very, very rightly pointed out that these things are pertinent. Price risk management is pertinent. We cannot risk the whole business for the market. So it's very important, like even Vidya spoke about, flat price risk is something which should be your target. You can look at other set of targets which are if they coincide or are on the same line, right? So I think very, very detailed discussion, Neerav. Neerav, a follow-up question on what I asked even Vidya with respect to what is I'm wanting to understand as an exchange that are you seeing now a lot of people, a lot of traders, manufacturers, corporates coming up to you, and or say the supply chain for Vidya, your supply chain, is also inculcating hedge policies or is inculcating hedge on their input while they're processing and giving to you or traders that have arrangements with you. So Nirav, we'll start with you first. Are you seeing that kind of a trend evolving, or are we still talking about where we were about 10 years back, or when the commodity markets were 10, 15 years back, when the commodity markets were still in their inception phase? Where are we at this point of time?
No, I'm seeing a lot of companies coming in and understanding these markets and starting their hedge policies or their price risk management policies. I have seen that no, these are markets. I'll be very frank. These are turbulent markets. So even to get into a hedge policy or a hedging mechanism, I've seen a lot of companies take a year, 2 years time. They test the waters. It is always good to start small, always good to understand the nature of this market and no, and then step in forward. But yes, so I have been the member of NCDX from the inception of NCDX, where it started with an image of a satte ki dukan to now how it is shaping up into a really world-class hedging platform, a very profound platform. And I'm seeing more and more people getting comfortable with this and their hedge policies, their mechanisms starting working on it. Some people might have a very, very written down policy. Some people have a smaller organization, though they don't write anything, but they're very clear on their concepts and they are doing it well. So I think there is increasing activity that I'm seeing from especially soybean crushers. Then I'm seeing on soybean oil importers, on palm oil importers, uh, some cotton traders, some even chickpea traders. So all that is happening. But I would still suggest that if we go on the international benchmarking level, if we benchmark it with the international market, I think we are far behind. And the reason for that is that mindset problem, the mindset problem of that this is a speculative market. Yes, it is a speculative market. You have to understand, but how are you using it? It's a knife. How are you using it? To cut a bread or to stab someone? So you have to understand that. So so this is a platform which is having both the positive and the negative side. It's how about you use it and how prudent you are on doing that. So if we go on international markets, if today the CME hedging is over, I think Vidya cannot put 5 vessels in a month to India. How will he manage his price risk from the origin to the destination? Because half of his cargo gets priced midway. When the cargo is already loaded, he's booked the bases, but his Chicago is open and he gives the facility to the consumers here. So the world market is doing this and Indians are slowly grappling it. But I think here I would also like to comment that where I'll be talking a lot owner driven because multinationals have their donkey years of understanding and they have their ways of doing this. But the lack of understanding or lack of maturity comes from the Indian owner driven organization, and especially the owner driven organization where the owners are 60 plus and they have their very traditional and very old school thought of thinking. As and when the newer generations are coming, they are understanding this market and they are trying and giving a example to how they hedged and they kind of saved the company. A typical example of any soybean crusher or any packed oil marketer or any local branding company. This year, the market was rallying like hell. If I sold a product before I could go and buy the physical, or if I would have negotiated something, the best platform available was to go and hedge on the NCDX immediately. And then you could have kind of figured out where you want to buy from, which mandi you want to buy from, or which location you want to buy from, which is the cheaper location for a refined oil, Indore, Akola, or Kandla, or for a Rajasthan guy, which was the more cheaper location, Neemuch or Kandla, or maybe some other North Gujarat location. So that is the situation. So I would say people are using this mechanism, but still there is a long way to go for us. Over to Vidya.
Thanks, Nirav. I think quite interesting to understand this. I have a follow-up question on the same line. And I think it is connected to what you said, the generation gap we have. So, most of the industries are into the same business since decades, and they have their own very strong fundamental view. When season starts, we have numbers coming in from all the associations, agencies, and we have our own understanding. And then we have a very strong view about the fundamental. Okay, like soybean season is going to start, and prices will definitely fall from these levels where they are today. And that I think somehow keep them away from hedging, because once you hedge, you are locking a price, while your fundamental view remains you are going to be bearish. So somehow that become a detrimental, an obstacle for most of the people to make a hedging decision. So how do maybe Vidya or you can how to balance out that thing? Because I have to somehow leave that thought behind that I am perfectly right on the fundamental side and I definitely should not hedge. And why I'm saying this? And then when opposite of that happens, what we have seen even the current season which is going on, then we have certain points to make. Whether okay, this is speculations, and this is something which we never thought. This is not right for the market. But the fact is that market will behave what actually the situation on ground is. So how to balance out these two thoughts and making a right decision? Vidya?
Okay. I thought you'd have, okay. So first thing is, in general, we have this mentality that I know everything, and this comes a lot with a baggage, experience. So you have, I mean, if we talk about our futures market here, it is 18 years old, and where our people are in the business for 30 years, right? So or more than that, or somebody is so so in general, and this is I have also been hearing from since the time I have started the career, that that ये ऐसा होता था, ये ऐसा ही होगा. So we always depend on the past experiences, and which we have seen in last at least 2 3 years, that whatever historical or whatever seasonality or whatever history we have seen, the market is evolving every day, and you cannot keep your thought what you have. I mean, I would not go 30 years back. I would say 5 years back. 5 years back, the strategy what you were working with, that was very relevant, and today it is totally irrelevant, right? So you need to evolve yourself also. Now, what to do with that? Uh, Nirav has given pointed out and in starting that a lot of companies which we have seen globally, they have survived for 200 250 years and all, uh, because you had a system in place, and system is bigger than any individual in that particular company. So you have to bring on to discipline, and that has to flow from top, and that is always there, and that otherwise it will not work. It will not work. So you know uh, everyone says that एक बार गड्ढे में गिरोगे तो संभलोगे, right? But in this market we have seen that once anyone is trapped, they never came out of it. One thing which we have seen is mandatory, right? When you are going to uh, hedge an external market, RBI requires your risk policy. So RBI asks for your risk policy. If you have risk policy, then they allow you to hedge in the external market. The similar thing, something of that sort, should should happen with the banks also, who are lending money, that you should have a risk policy in the place. So when you have, because it is, and we have seen, it is not only the, I mean, most of the business happening with the bank credit. I mean, nobody is keeping their, putting their own money. So banks should also be careful on the lending money, whether this has a risk management policy in place, this company has the risk management policy in place or not, and accordingly decide the exposure. Because once that will happen, everybody will at least look towards it. And Nirav has said this, and I am feeling that now a lot of owner-driven companies also, when the second generation, third generation are coming in, they are also looking at how the world operates, and let's do that way. So things are getting better, and we have to also keep in mind that we are only, I mean, in the domestic exchanges, we are only 18 years old, whereas globally it is running for donkey's years. So you need to inculcate that in your thought process, in your culture, that hedging is culture and not a sector. And so because people always look at the bad examples, not at the good examples, because I mean, only, let's say, 10 companies went bust because of the speculation. But it doesn't mean that only that 10 company was operating. There was other 200 or 500 company must be also hedging that. So you cannot benchmark yourself against those 10 companies. So culture, thought process need to change.
No, you are absolutely right. And Vidya, I can really put that into perspective that no one is immune to risk. What we see in first wave of COVID was entirely different in second. And the people who were thinking we have immunity or we are much prepared for, the younger people were most affected. So you never know which category you fall. And second important point is that uh, the transition of information is very fast nowadays. You have really very less time to react on any information. There are much sharper people, information fast, travels too fast, means rather than anything else. And till the time you get it, maybe there are thousands of people who have reacted on that, which was not a case maybe a decade back when you have sufficient time. Now, so that is my next question is to Nirav, which is quite relevant, especially when we go to the poultry sector, right? And this is basically my discussion, which I had multiple times with one of the few of the largest. They say we are back-to-back manning, right? We go buy raw material and we sell our stock, and somehow our profitability is fixed in that way. Right. Though, and they have a cushion in between 4 to 5% for the price volatility, right? And I think that's another way of doing the price risk management when we do not have price risk management. So, does futures market offer a space for those people also who follow back-to-back kind of a strategy? And if yes, how beneficial is for those set of participants?
No, it does definitely help for back-to-back people. Rather, for back-to-back people, it is the easiest. No, as I mentioned, certain times to negotiate a physical cargo, it is not easy. If say today, no, you buy certain specs of cargo. It could be you are buying some quality of meal, and that day the seller for that meal is not active, and still you want to hedge your risk. So there is a benchmark market available for you, which is the NCDX soybeans. And then you go and hedge on that. Similarly, on the poultry market also, the ultimate raw material is soybeans. So they can always come and hedge their requirement of soya meal versus the soybeans. They just have to set their hedge ratio as to what is the correlation that is coming out and what could be the probable hedge ratio that they have to work on. As there is a topic today of basis risk, so the basis risk would be there, but the broader risk would be covered by this hedging mechanism that they do. And there's a very good point that you have taken out, Kapil. I see a lot of soybean crushers that want to, or that are doing hedging on the board. But there are a lot of these poultry people who are not still active. I would say rather majority of them. So I would say that there is a lot of exercise that has to be done by the industry and the exchanges and SEBI, I don't know whom, to educate people. And there is another very, very big thing, no, as a broker, when me or my team approaches a corporate or a crusher, the first reaction by a owner is, अरे हम सट्टा नहीं करते, अरे बॉस सट्टा करने की बात नहीं कर रहे. It is about managing your risk. So I think it's a mindset problem with us, that whenever this thing comes, we call it a satta. So
And why?
ye bol ke Kapil, there is a big issue that is there which should be addressed. We are wrongly tagging this market in a very negative way. It's becoming a taboo for a lot of these people, and they themselves are not able to come out of it. No, I don't deny, I don't want to name certain crushers, but certain crushers are doing so well in the hubs adjoining MP. They buy the physical, they sell the product. So there is, as I mentioned earlier, it is not necessary that you have to keep things very complicated, that if you sell a product, you go and buy on the board only, or if you buy the physical product, you go and hedge on the board only. Try and keep it as much simple as possible. Buy the raw material, sell the finished goods. Buy the raw material, sell the finished goods. But your cycle is so big. Every day you are doing this 500 tons of buying seed and selling of 300 tons or 400 tons of meal and 100 tons of oil. If there is something left unhedged, or there is something open, or after third day, fourth day, you see that accumulated open position is coming out, then you go and hedge on the exchange. But don't have that negative mindset that this is a satta or this is a taboo. Eventually, every damn person in this industry, whether they like us or they don't like us, they follow us tick by tick. So that is the situation. Then why kind of defame it? This is the reality. We have to embrace this new regime that is there. Rather, this is a mechanism, and as I told you, this is a platform. You have to know how to use it. So I would suggest even that the second level of buyers of a product can also come and hedge their risk, like a poultry industry or a fishery industry. Why not?
True. Yeah. So thanks, Nirav. And I think I buy your point. And it's not that they don't understand hedging. They have a equally good book in currency hedging. Whosoever is exporting and importing, so they know this concept somehow.
Yeah, actually.
I think the information, the flow, or maybe the concept is so huge that they don't see, and maybe they see physical, their core business, trading, buying physical, selling physical, going to the market, filling their warehouses, and that's the traditional the way of business. So, but I think the transition is going on. My next question is to Vidya, but before that, I will just want to respond to the Vidya point that banks should come forward and ask companies to hedge. So we were discussing the same thing in one of the earlier events. Someone says, no, it's my money. How can bank come and say you should hedge? So it's one way of looking at this. But if you go to the road and where government is asking you to wear the helmet, and it's not because they want to save you. Of course, they want to save you, but once you are on the road, you are part of an ecosystem, right? You are not only creating a risk for you, but others as well. And we have seen what happens in the oil seed industries when market moves volatile and someone default. It's not only that company or that entity goes. There is a spillover impact on all other people who are associated with that. So my next question, Vidya, which is again, I think very, very important. When people think that, if I need to replace my physical activities, especially buying or selling or inventory management by futures, it has to be backed by deliveries, right? If I'm buying an exchange, it should convert into the deliveries. We are not getting the deliveries. Then what's the point of, buying? Buying means usually considered getting the delivery, and selling means giving the delivery. But you use these market efficiently across the globes. Sitting in India, you are trading board, maybe Bursa or whatever, and you do trade NCDX as well for hedging. How much of your trade actually finally goes into deliveries? Maybe in terms of quantity or percentage, and how do you see this particular thought to get the delivery from exchange and deliver on the exchange?
Kapil, I mentioned one thing that you need to define your role. What are you using these platforms for? If you are using this platform for getting physical delivery, then I mean, if you want a physical delivery or if you want a physical product, then you can get it outside this platform also, right? So if one is expecting it to, I mean, a lot of physical deliveries are also happening, and sometimes NCDEX offer, whether it is in soybean or mustard or any other commodity, it offers a cheaper option. Then people go for also delivery. But one, if you are talking about, or if you are limiting yourself to price risk management, then it is not your real business, and which I am talking about. It is not your base, that you want to depend everything, or you want to depend on NCDX to run I mean, to provide the supply chain solution for your business. It is not that you have done it basis NCDX, right? So it is a price risk management. You have to define your role and then act accordingly. If it makes sense to give delivery or make delivery from the exchange, why not go for it and take it? But but uh, but that cannot be the sole criteria.
True. No, you are correct. I haven't seen anyone going to the exchange and getting a bundle full of currency against the hedge. So you are right. You have to see how it is done. So thank you, Nirav and Vidya. Kavita, over to you, and maybe to the participants who want to interact.
Thank you, Kapil. Kapil, we have a question from the audience with respect to import parity. I'll just read out the question. This is to Neera. When RSO contract is in negative import parity and the contracts are running in negative spread, how can you explain the situation, and what is a hedger supposed to do in a situation like that?
Which contract did you mention? Refined soybean oil?
Refined soya oil, RSO, refined soya oil.
As I mentioned, good, the question came up. As I mentioned, there are two ways of hedging. One is the positive hedge, and one is the controlling cost hedge, which would be a slightly negative hedge. So it will totally depend on what is your situation. If I was an importer who had a free trading, it was on my will whether to import or not to import, I would only import there if there was a positive hedge available. But if there is a position that I had to already take, or if there was a position that I had to manage, that was there on my head, then I would take that risk at a negative margin also. But then I would look at the spread. What are the other options available for me? Can I not import that and buy locally something in high seas if that is required? So there are different ways. When there is a negative hedge, you have to see which are the other variables or which are the other options you can work on. Maybe if there are a lot of refineries who want to secure their supply, what they do is they don't do outright purchase immediately. They go to a shipper like Bunge or the other multinationals, go and book a space so that they secure that the refinery would run in the month of July or August or September. But in the time when the market is going on, whenever they get a positive margin, they immediately go to the shipper, price it, and on the other hand, either hedge the exchange or sell the refined product. So this is how, on the negative hedge, I would say it's always a challenging situation, but one has to see which are the other options that they can work on so that they don't book a loss immediately. But if there is a situation, like if there is something like COVID that has come up, or if there is some other news that has come up and knee-jerk reaction, you have to hedge. I would suggest that even at a negative margin, one should go and hedge rather than keeping the risk open.
Thanks, Nirav. I think it was quite elaborate in terms of you clearly saying that uh, it's just important to kind of hedge irrespective of where the market is. You have elaborated on that previous in your previous detail as well. Now, Kalpesh bhai, since I'm logging in through my phone, I'm unable to see any questions. If you can help me from the audience, if there are more questions that are there from the audience.
No, as of now, there are no certain question on our chat box.
Okay.
There is a question I see for Vidya.
Yeah.
Vidya ji, we are a non-corporate based trading house. Given the limited resource we have, what would you say is the best way for us to gather relevant information, especially for commodities? It's nothing related to hedge, but like grains that are not traded on the exchange.
Rishi, I think Rishi has asked this question. Rishi, if and we see that grains are also, there are contracts, not, but grains are also being traded. But if you are talking about the information, then it is all the informal sources, right? And this is not only applicable whether the grain or whether the commodity is listed on exchange or not. I mean, right now, if we talk about communication or information, we are in all sorts of digital era where sometime the news from Argentina uh, come to Indian market before our own officers give it to us. So the communication is very much transparent nowadays. So and if you are not getting some information, I would suggest you talk more and more in the market, because that is where you will get all the info.
Thank you, Vidya. I think Nirav, the next question.
After this question, I have a question, Kavita. I have received one question. Let permit me whenever you are coming.
Kalpesh, I think Kavita have some connectivity issue. You can read it out.
Okay. Mr. S.N. Mishra is having a question here. Who can help and how can we draft a good policy of the hedging?
So this is to me.
Yeah, Nirav, I think you are a intermediary, you connect exchange and you provide all the support.
So basically, it depends totally on the size of the organization. It is not a very big thing for a small organization, a small meeting with the top management and the important purchase sales guys to understand what are the open risk variables, what are the possible ways of controlling the risk. That could be hedging on certain things or taking a counter position on the finished goods or the raw material. So all those things have to be evaluated, and then deciding on who's going to take the responsibility of that. What happens is a lot of times everybody in the organization knows that this is a risk, but it's the purchase guy who has to book the exchange, or it is the sales guy who has to book the exchange, or there is the purchase or the sales guy who has to report to somebody senior, then he's going to take the position. So the the risk policy, the hedge policy looks a big name or a big jargon, but it's very basic and simple according to the organization and the size of the organization. If and for a small and a medium organization, it's just a 1 hour of meeting, identifying the risk, identifying who's going to take care of that, whose responsibility will be what, and how will it be coming on our dashboard or as the important participants that we are covered for that risk. That's, I think, the most important thing that can be done in a single meeting.
Thank you, Neeraj. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Vidya. Neeraj, one more question for you. Let me just read. Say today the price of seed is 3,800. I booked the contract on NCDX 1 month forward at rupees 4,100. Now the prices are falling outside the exchange, say every 3 days. What are the options available to a manufacturer? Shall the contract be immediately cancelled? And what are the associated costs, or alternatively, shall we call for hedge for another commodity?
I would say the question is not very clear.
Yes,
So
yes.
when the price is 3,800 and if you have already taken a position at 4,100 rupees, so the position is already taken. So you are very clear that the forward market is on premium because of whatever reason the market feels. And if the market is falling in the physical side, in tandem, the futures market would come down. It will not come down exactly in the same value that the physical market comes down. But generally, these markets are always correlated, and especially a soybean market is quite highly correlated. So it would come down. But you have already logged the position at 4,100. So the contract cannot get cancelled. But yes, if you see that you've got your raw material that you are desiring to buy at X price and you are closing your physical exposure, then similarly, simultaneously, you should close your futures position also. I think that's the best answer I can give to this question.
Right. Efficient markets will, especially like you mentioned for seed, all the oil seeds are extremely, extremely efficient. The futures will definitely follow course because what happens in the spot will be reflected on the futures platform as well. So what we'll do now is that we've already, Neerav and Vidya, we've actually kind of created a brief quiz or an assessment that we are running with the participants. I'll ask one of my teammates to send across that quiz. And while the participants are, closing on that quiz, I just want a few closing remarks from Neerav and Vidya as to, how what are your, say, one of the things that Vidya pointed out was definitely, like the bank have whenever any corporate has a currency exposure, the banks ensure or the regulators have ensured that banks need to hedge their price risk on currency. Their currency risk has to be hedged by the banks. If they are lending to a corporate that has a currency risk, the bank needs to ensure that they hedge their currency risk with respect to the exposure that they have to that particular entity. So what do you think could be the steps that could definitely, apart from volatility, which is one of the most biggest reasons why the industry should hedge, what are the key drivers that would enable this activity to be taken up by more and more corporates? So Neerav, if I can have your closing thoughts.
Okay. So basically, as far as the closing remark for this would be, I would say the industry needs to break the taboo. It needs to understand that this is a mechanism, a very robust platform, though if not properly used, can be very risky, but if properly handled, is a fantastic hedging mechanism. So you should use it, understand, go slow, test the waters, and then make what is more conducive to your organization. Another thing I would say, when you have the margin, lock it, don't be creative. And also, certain times it is not necessary as a hedge mechanism that we go and take every counter position of the physical on the exchange. Try and keep it as simple as possible. Try and do a natural hedge, buy the raw material in physical, sell the finished product in physical. But whatever is left, keep an eye on that, so you know what is the risk that is open. Log the risk in every day, every 3 days, or on a weekly basis, depending on what's your volume, so that you are more clear and clean every, I would say, 3 days or a week or a fortnight of your old positions. You start focusing on your new positions, and you ultimately make a very good and a very profitable organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Neera. Vidya, I'll tweak the question for you a little bit. You've had exposure working with, large corporates, domestic as well as uh, international corporates, international large conglomerates. Now, they clearly, set their eye on the margin and fix their margins, and then irrespective of where price goes, they hedge. So how is this discipline, kind of followed, maintained, and is it across the board? Is it do you see that as a phenomenon? How is this maintained even on the regulatory side? So if you have any insights, I'd be keen.
Kavita, I've worked with the Indian corporate also, and and then to the multinational. I think the key and nothing much, because if you look at, and I would not call it an Indian corporate or multinational. I'll put it as a, if you are a corporate run by a professional, or whether it is owner driven, right? Professional always answerable to the owners or to the board of directors, or to anyone. Owners generally take it that I am not answerable to anyone, and that's where we see the discipline which we are talking about going haywire. So Neerav also mentioned that you need to have someone professional running the risk management, so that he always have everything, or things in control, because he knows the limitations. Uh, you have to enforce this. If whatever your risk management policy, you have to enforce this, and there is no other way than the top down approach. It has to be top down approach. I mean, irrespective of, I mean, let's say if you hire a professional like me to run the risk management, but your owners are saying that, okay, I want to do this. You are the owner. I cannot say no to it. I can only advise that, sir, this should not be done, because this is open exposure, right? But then at the end, he can always say, I'm the owner. So it is a top down approach. It cannot be the other way around. So it has to be, and I'm repeating it, that hedging, you have to make hedging as a culture, and not as a system, as a culture, that it comes into it. Kapil mentioned that bank says it's my money, and it's our way to do it. Similarly, I mean, we have seen in last 2 years, even the back-to-back margin guys are struggling, because the uncertainty is not, it will not say that I'm coming and I'm coming to ruin your business. It will come without ringing a bell. So even the back-to-back margin, or people who think that, okay, I have a bigger brand margin, they have also struggled during this time. So time is I think above, and these things help you or provide you that cushion. I would not say that it will keep you, but at least it will provide you a cushion. When you fall, you will not be dead. you have some cushion available.
Thank you, Vidya, for kind of blurring the lines between a domestic and international entity, because policies, concepts do not change when you cross borders. And I think that's very, 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 very pertinent, very, very important across the board, because with, it's becoming one world now. We, as markets, we do get impacted with international price movements on commodities. Especially, we've seen that in oilseeds this year to a large extent, and some of the other commodity definitely gets impacted. With we are vulnerable to the international markets. And I mean, there will be a time when it will be vice versa as well. So irrespective, hedging is something which needs to be followed by the book. Certain concepts with respect to hedge ratio have been, kind of spoken about, pointed out, and the emphasis of the flat price risk versus the basis risk has also been highlighted today by Nirav and Vidya, in terms of what should be your target. If you're able to achieve, say, the paraphernalia attached, I think you've kind of struck the chord. But uh, if the basis risk is something which definitely I think every industry needs to keep an eye on, but the flat price risk is what they need to largely take into account and hedge. So Vidya and Neera, we've had a wonderful kind of an engagement in terms of the audience participation also. And also with respect to, it's a learning experience for all of us, because while we interact with the industry, sometimes it's important to hear from the industry in terms of how to counter those kind of arguments, because y'all are one of them, and it's good to hear the other side communicate and talk. And Neerav, specifically for you, I think very, very insightful kind of communication, very candid, very reinforcing for everybody who is here to kind of put forward and communicate that this is a platform available to you to take care of your risk, and it's for you to understand how you are utilizing your platform. And of course, Anira, we want you to kind of hold hands with the exchange, like you've always supported us, to kind of take this initiative to the next level. This was one of the exercises we conducted along with C, where we did not look at the peripherals. We didn't scratch the surface. We looked at as in the program was called "How Should One Hedge?" It was not the importance of hedging, which I think most of the conferences always speak about, but we deep dived into various concepts. We had an academician as part of the initial concept, and then an industry participant uh, who was talking about not only experience but also concepts like hedge ratio and risk. So I, I think we are almost at the end of concluding this event and this interaction. Of course, concluding this module, we are getting requests to kind of redo this module in a more advanced, further advanced form. Also, consultancy in terms of how one-to-one all the panelists who have been part of this interaction could interact the set of participants, since they were not students, they were not retail participants, they were actual hedgers who were involved with the industry, and hence we saw very, very relevant questions across all our modules. So I want to thank Vidya and Neha for taking out time today and ensuring that we conclude this exercise, this particular module or classroom series in a very fruitful way. I'd like to thank for their support with respect to the audience. I'd like to thank all my team members for their support. And we'll be sending across the certificates for the participants in the next week once we assess and we get the results. Also, we'd like to, kind of communicate that we will continue with these set of series with C going forward as well. We will soon let you know when we will be doing our next set of series on this. And once again, I want to thank everyone, and we'll be wrapping up the session for today.
Kavita,
Yes, Kalpesh bhai.
we have shared the questionnaire to participants' email IDs.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I'm aware. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kavita. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya. Thank you, Neerav.
Thank you.